Hey friends, so I have an interesting thought that I wanted to share with all of you and get your opinions on. A lot of games have been making the transition to open world in the last few years. The open world genre isn't even new by any means, or even a genre that is only now seeing a huge boom. Hell, I remember the open world boom of the Xbox 360 generation, the zombie epic Prototype, or even Assassin's Creed, which Ubisoft used to pump out sequels to every 11 or so months. The thing is, your Infamouses, your Sleeping Dogs, these are original IPs that came out of the gate as open world titles. For the most part, other franchises stayed in their lanes, honing and refining their level-based structures and, for better or worse, delivering more of what gamers expected of them. Lately, we've seen a lot of previously linear games transition to an open world format. The first time I noticed it on the Xbox One and PS4 generation was Ubisoft taking the Ghost Recon franchise and shifting it into an open world. But even then, things like Homefront, The Revolution, Mirror's Edge Catalyst, Metal Gear Solid 5 and so on were already in gamers' hands. And now you can add to the list Gears of War 5, Halo Infinite, and soon Sonic the Hedgehog being considered open world games. I'm not sure about you, but typically when a previously linear series makes the jump to open world, the first 20 or so hours are breathtaking for me. It's insane being able to go for a literal walk in the woods, go hiking anywhere, stumble upon camps, or wander around the play spaces at my own pace in a way that the linear games didn't allow for. That's okay, baby. I've heard friends and colleagues even go so far as to say their initial playthroughs of games such as Halo Infinite or Gears 5 were the best experiences they ever had in the franchise, and those games were their favorite campaigns. And then, almost a year later, they end up replaying the more linear games while barely touching those open world games. I'm kind of the same way. The most recent Halo Infinite was engrossing when it first came out, but now I find that when I need some Halo action, I opt to just replay a Bungie Halo title. It's something I suspect will happen to me too with the upcoming Sonic Frontiers. I'm gonna enjoy the hell out of Sonic Frontiers, but when all is said and done, I'm probably gonna end up replaying Sonic Adventure 2 more than I am Sonic Frontiers. It seems as though these newly open world games take quite a bit of work to produce, but don't sit in the public conscience for very long. Initially, they make a huge splash, but the ripples just don't stick around, and within a few years, people are back to revering, replaying, and discussing the non-open world entries. Why is this the case? Well, I have some theories that I wanted to run by you. My theory is that when you jump to an open world game, what you gain in player freedom, you lose in pacing. In level-based games, each room, hallway, expansive vehicle section, set piece, etc. is all carefully controlled and paced by the developer. Weapons can be given or taken away depending on the level. Music can be composed more deliberately to be in sync with the player's actions as they make their way through these levels, since the designers know exactly how players will be approaching combat situations. What I personally find about linear games is there's a better sense of pacing. You get moments of excitement, moments of spectacle, moments of suspense, and then moments of downtime before the action ramps right back up and you're back in the thick of it. And this is because the level designers know exactly how I'm going to be progressing through the terrain and situations that they've created. Whereas in open world games, by the time I'm done with them, I find the open world aspect to be sort of a waste of time, and I'm just sprinting across these huge stretches of nothingness trying to find anything to stimulate my brain. And once you find that encounter, you clear it out quickly, and then you have to go hunting for the next bit of stimulation. It's a problem that I think is compounded by games that overpower their players too much. Part of the reason I think games like Breath of the Wild took Zelda and made a successful transition to open world is due to having elements such as a stamina gauge, weapon durability, and so on to make the act of climbing a mountain, running across a massive field, engaging in combat, and maintaining your equipment a constant act of resource management. If these elements didn't exist in the game, you'd have no tension in the combat or traversal of the world, and you'd probably get bored after a while. Death Stranding is an excellent example of a game taking the act of climbing a mountain and making it a very mechanically involved process. That's not me saying that every game needs to have things like weapon durability or stamina gauges. It's just something that I've been considering. how a game's mechanics constantly challenging the player can ensure that tension always remains in the background of an open world game. The problem being that a lot of modern open world games with skill trees and upgrades and the such, they tend to make the player too powerful that by the end of their time with the game, the open world isn't a challenge anymore. It's simply a long, drawn-out obstacle between moments of stimulation. If there are any game developers or frequent players of the open world genre who find themselves watching this, I'd love your insight on the topic. Why is it that linear games that transition to open world often struggle to remain relevant in gaming and pop culture after their launch period? What is it that makes successful open world games so successful? Why do they succeed at becoming classics that are replayed while other titles often fail to do so? I'd love to have some conversation started in the comment section below. Feel free to share the conversation to your Twitters or your social medias if you know somebody who has interesting thoughts on this topic. And a huge thank you to the channel members who keep me keeping on, as well as my patrons who pledge $10 or more. Patrons such as G.I. Joe Paul, RoboFin117, Blake the Durg, Halagaz, Hounds of Meath, Verenith, Brendan Lowry, Savart Farmer, and Wolfric Productions. And I hope to see you all on the next video. Get some conversations going down below.